Welcome to today's webinar presented by SBK and Associates. The title of the webinar is Strategies to Reduce ITSM Complexity. My name is Michael Roberts. I'm the VP of Sales and Marketing here at SBK and Associates, and I have today with me Carlos Almeida. Carlos, feel free to introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, I'm Carlos Almeida. I have 25 years experience in the electronic design automation industry. So all the chip manufacturers and taping out and all that kind of world, plus another 14 years working in a regulated industry such as medical device. I'm really looking forward to talking to everyone today and sharing some cool insights for GSM and best practices to reduce your ITSM complexity.
Thanks, Carlos.
Uh,
And as mentioned before, we work at SBK and Associates, and we're a Gold Atlassian solution partner. What that means is a lot of different things. We obviously have to be certified and vetted by Atlassian to be able to provide services around their products. But SBK, we're a 21-year-old, almost 22-year-old business in April. On average, our customers choose to work with us for more than 8 years, which basically means we're continuing to provide value for these organizations. We work with a lot of different applications to support our customers. So not just the Atlassian tool suite, but the discussion today will definitely revolve around JSM and the strategies around JSM to reduce complexity. And some of our key partnerships, obviously the Atlassian side, but we're also PTC, GitLab, Master Control, Microsoft, and AWS partners as well. So let's kick things off a little bit, and let's potentially set the stage for Carlos to help show how some things can be reduced, the reduce of the complexity of these strategies, and really what prevents companies from actually achieving the positive outcomes of ITSM tools is a traditional model which operates under operations and support teams, and they've been working that way for many years, and most of it's due to a wide variety of tools that they have to operate within, and then some rigid systems within that as well. And those systems sometimes are legacy, and that doesn't allow them to modernize and provide more features and more capabilities around that, which basically turns into a lot of other challenges. And we've broken them basically into two main areas, and those main areas are operations and support. So increasingly, there's complexity around cloud service architectures, and there's dependencies on multiple teams with that too. And often you throw in the remote environment capability, and that's an even bigger problem. Next is dealing with incredibly aggressive timelines when it comes to responding to business changes and incidents. So now more than ever, work needs to flow seamlessly between dev and ops to be able to address those aggressive timelines. And then really the hard part with legacy, as I mentioned before, is it falls short of getting the mission accomplished, and the traditional processes and team dynamics don't really take hold. They leave your dev teams, your ops teams, and everybody else feeling kind of stranded and siloed. And from a support perspective, there are obviously ever-changing business requirements. Um, Sometimes that reduces the employee satisfaction because they feel like they can't get the things that they need done out of IT. There's a lot of pressure to shift left and give more, developers and operations people control over what they're doing and the operations within that. And this creates this really challenging environment. Shadow IT is one kind of outcome of that. But there's a Gartner study that talks about 80% of teams have not adopted that agile approach to ITSM practices, which results in, those problems that we just talked about. Teams are they're expecting the same from IT and operations teams that they're getting from other teams. Uh, Teams will end up spinning up their own service desks, which creates additional complexity and shadow IT, as I mentioned. And this also gives opportunities when you do modernize to look at native integrations across not just the Atlassian product line, but other products that you're already using too. So these challenges are kind of the driving force for today's webinar to help reduce some of that complexity. And what we're going to do is talk about how we would reduce complexity in these major areas. Collaboration and communication will be first. Then we'll talk about processes and automation. And then lastly, we'll talk about resource optimization and the performance of your system. I think the main area that people will get value from is we'll give some business outcomes of what JSM has done in the ITSM world in real world scenarios. And then we'll have a point today where we can have some questions and answers. So first is this collaboration and communication area, which basically revolves around how teams utilize that tool and gather information. And Carlos, I want to give you some time here to talk about these really core communication and collaboration systems within JSM.
Thanks, Michael. As you mentioned, organizations today face significant challenges with fragmented communication, siloed updates, and misaligned priorities. These things can delay your issue resolution, increase your costs, frustrate your internal teams and your customers. The solution is check out Atlassian's centralized communication and collaboration model. That's where you get all of your ITSM related interactions and updates and resolutions in a streamlined, one accessible platform. It's really cool. This, in my opinion, is where Jira Service Management really shines. So let's dig in a little bit. So what is the centralized communication hub? The centralized communication hub is more than just a single platform. It's a strategy for underlying all the interactions related to IT support and all of IT operations. You have consolidation of tickets, communications, status, updates, comments, resolution. You eliminate the silos that tend to lead to the delays and confusion. So with your service management, the centralized hub becomes the backbone of your ITSM strategy. With this, every team stays updated in real time. Every customer or internal engineer can easily track the progress on any ticket. And really importantly, critical updates are logged for accountability and visibility. And someone who works a lot with compliance customers, this is a big one for auditability. Let's talk a little bit more about the portal itself. The portal simplifies how your users will interact with you. It provides a clean, intuitive interface where customers or your team members can submit new tickets with predefined forms for different issues, or you can view the status of their tickets without needing to chase down anyone via email or chat. And it provides your users easy access to a searchable knowledge base. And we're going to talk about that more. This really amplifies abilities for self-service, which hopefully reduces the load on your IT team. So this portal ensures that all your communication regarding any ticket is logged. That means no more lost tickets, no more scattered conversations. Everything is centralized for complete transparency. It's just a one-stop shopping. Next slide. So I want to say a little bit more and lean in on the integrated knowledge management and why I think that's so important. So for many organizations, repeated issues, inconsistent answers, and unnecessary service tickets are real pain. So JSM provides a centralized knowledge base. So with that, you can reduce those repeated tickets by having the users solve their own problems. That's problem avoidance or ticket avoidance. And you can ensure consistent and accurate solutions are provided. So you're giving the same messaging, which allows you to build your internal SOPs and your guidance. And my favorite, you free up your IT resources to focus on more strategic stuff. So underneath the hood, the secret sauce here is the mix of Confluence and JSM working together. So Confluence is your central hub where you actually create and manage your knowledge base articles. Those all get back tied into JSM. Your users and your IT team can easily access those solutions in the knowledge base right from the customer portal or while creating a service request. And your IT teams, and I love this, can quickly see solutions to any issues being tracked right in their particular portal. So it really helps accelerate solving problems and getting everyone up on the same page. And really cool, over time, your system learns. So it actually fine tunes which articles are most effective, allowing you to continually refine the knowledge base and groom it. So this integration amplifies your power of quick responses, reduces your overhead, and it just provides a more proactive ITSM solution. And then a cool factoid, a lot of our customers who have added this capability into their ITSM through Jira have often within 3 months reported a 30% reduction in repetitive tickets and a 25% improvement in average resolution time. So I think that's really sweet. Next slide.
Especially for IT departments that usually get beat up with, I have to go to IT to solve anything, and it takes forever. 30% of being able to self-service, and the other stats you gave, like that's real business value.
Absolutely. Next slide. So what is this unified interface that you get with JSM? It's more than just the portal. It's all the underlying components and the fact that it's not just for IT. You can use it across multiple organizations. And we routinely, with SPK, we're often brought in initially with something like, let's focus on our IT environment. How can we tune it with JSM? And very quickly, we have marketing group using it. We have the HR group doing stuff. We have finance group. We have facilities. We end up with a ton of other organizations that have similar needs, right? They need to do stuff. They need to track how quickly things are going through. They need to have accountability. They need to be able to assign tasks. All those things very similar. So if you have everyone working in the same framework, you get better alignment of your business and IT teams, right? So I find that to be very powerful. For instance, besides your IT doing what you normally expect, the ITL-based workflow, we've done implementations for HR where now all your onboarding and offboarding and transferring and payroll, all that stuff is in one place. Similarly with finance teams, budget approvals, procurement, anything that you're doing with JSM, you can have all that done in similar space with similar tools. So for alignment. And the other cool thing is you don't have to have all of the extra bells and whistles that your IT projects have. So you can use a work management project, which is slim, stripped down, just what you need, easy to work. So it's very effective for getting your team on board. So punchline, when every team uses the same tool, you eliminate the silos, you create a shared understanding of services and processes, you get better alignment.
And for those of you who are here in an IT capacity and you want to have your marketing, HR, or finance teams learn more about how they can use Jira in their environments, we are actually having a webinar next week on that exact topic. So be sure to tune in for that.
And I'll mention one more thing. We're going to talk a lot about automations. Actually, we have a whole other webinar, but I'm going to touch on the fact that automations, which you get out of the box, is really powerful. So everything we do, what we just said about creating the custom flows for each of the departments, we're going to sweeten that up by adding automations for ticket routing, for approvals, for creating automated status transactions, escalations. There's a lot of stuff there. So let's talk about more on this unified interface and what you can do with it. So with a unified interface, you get a single platform for submitting and managing and resolving your requests. You have standardized processes across all teams, and you have improved transparency, which yields better collaboration between your departments. So let's talk about that. So the unified portal, you have your single point of entry where your employees can submit your requests, whether IT, HR, finance, any department. Each team can create a workflow very specific to their needs. For instance, IT can use workflows for incident management. HR can work workflows for employee onboarding. And then each team can add local or global automations, such as routing, tickets, escalations, notifications. And because all the workload automations are built on the same platform, it ensures consistency without interfering with each other's processes. In other words, you can have your project level automations and you have your global automations. So it's a very powerful way of really refining and building out a solution for your department. Next slide. At SPK, we have many years of experience with JSM. I think one of the more recent game changers for me is the tight integration between JSM and the communication platforms like Slack and Teams. With these, you get instant notification, such as real-time updates on tickets, SLA breaches, or changes directly in Slack or Team. better collaboration because it's in the context of what you're doing. So you're in the chat, something's going on, you can create the ticket, you can have updates in it. It's all right there. So it really keeps you in the moment of solving a problem rather than hopping around. And then you get better triggering of things. Again, using the automation, you can trigger things of actions that you're doing in the Slack or Teams channel, which will give you all the goodness of all the things in automation. So I find that to be really a very useful and exciting thing with JSM. Next slide.
All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit more about how JSM can reduce complexity around the processes and ultimately build some value based upon the automations that Carlos mentioned. So, Carlos, let's talk about the whole mapping the process concept.
Sure. This is almost like, you bring SPK to do some work for you guys. What I'm just gonna kind of walk through what normally I like to do, which is the first thing is I want to define and document what you have now, your status quo, right? So we want to know where we are so we know where we're going to go. So that's the first step that we deal with. Then what I like to do is start really building out the target, and I usually go and start with the workflows. There I'm defining the statuses like reporting in progress, close, customized statuses, the transitions, who can do what and when, and then I start customizing it even further with maybe some verification validators. There's very powerful things there. So I'm starting to build the bones of the system, and now I start going deeper in the individual issues or types that are in there. I start focusing on the fields. I start focusing on, what does that group need to focus on? Which fields are going to be mandatory? Which additional custom rules I need to set for those, and the assessments of who's going to be in the approval chain. So that is me walking down and essentially building out your environment. And then lastly, I'll focus in on the automations. Because once you have the core bones in place, you want to be able to accelerate everything you're doing and remove manual steps. And I'll build this out. And the other tip here is build it all in a sandbox because you're gonna basically be the cook in the kitchen. You don't want to damage anything in your production area. The sandbox is a powerful tool for you to do that. So we would develop all this in your sandbox, test and iterate in an agile way. And then once you have it looking good, we can then move this into production. And there you go. That is how I would map my processes to JSM.
And I want to throw in a pretty important point about this whole mapping the process thing that Carlos just mentioned. Um, there are customers that look at JSM and they see the default workflow and they go, well, that's not good. This is not how we work. And they think that like the workflow isn't changeable. And I think what Carlos walked through there is no, it's more about let's find out what your process is today and take that and put that in JSM because that workflow can all be changed. It's very critical to know that.
Thank you, Mike. So once I have the structure in place, again, I love automations. We already have a lot that come out of the box. So building automations, and we have another webinar that we've talked about it, is pretty relatively easy to do. You have the ability to publish. What I would do when I'm coming on board with that is start with the template. So Atlassian did a nice job to provide a bucket of automations out of the box that you can play with in your sandbox. So I have a few of them on the slide there, but some of the things you can do in the JSM space is your post-incident review, a PIR, can be actually linked into a Confluence space. This rule will automatically create a Confluence page for your PIR or postmortem, which is great. I have abilities to auto close old Jira tickets, automatically schedule that. I can create automation rules to reopen an issue. If a customer comments on something, I can auto assign for distributed teams using all kinds of Boolean logic for certain conditions of who gets what, or also in the approvers for that. I can link related issues. Now, this is really cool because this will allows me to link support issues from different people from the same company. So if you're supporting another company, like you have external customers and you have all these different people coming in with their company identified, you can actually start to aggregate this in rules and kind of herd the cats, if you will, to get all of those tickets in a nice, clean, associated way, which then allows you to build queries, it allows you to build dashboards and charts and all kinds of stuff. Um, I can go on and on. My encouragement is go in there and start looking at all the capabilities and learn and play.
And as Carlos mentioned, we did a webinar not long ago about all the power of these automations and all the efficiencies that you can get out of actually implementing these workflows. So on the screen is the link to the webinar. You can listen to it on demand, and it does talk a little bit more in depth about how automations work, what the key ones are, and what some of the ones that you may want to try. And as Carlos mentioned, there are ones that are kind of there out of the box that you can just click right into, but they do have a drag and drop builder, and we talk about that in that webinar. So thanks, Carlos, for mentioning that.
You bet. All right, another, I'd say, uh, core characteristics of JSM is the concept of a request type. This is powerful because you really can use these request types to categorize and organize your incoming service requests, and that makes them really easy to manage. So with the request type, you can standardize your communication, like what happens for certain conditions. You can improve your collaboration by making sure that certain request types have certain fields and certain workflows associated with certain issue types. So this is another layer that really, expands the power of JSM to allow you to reuse other issue types and regroup them and collect different information and funnel them out to the right people. So this is another very powerful thing that is excellent. Next slide. So data and systems. This is a use case I wanted to throw in here. Um, if you have other companies or that you are working with as customers, and we see this all the time at SPK, we have customers and they have their own Jira instance, right? And you want to service this customer, you have options to say, okay, customer, you have access to my portal and you can start putting stuff in there. Or you as a provider could have access to their portal and start seeing those tickets. But we found that to be expensive, problematic, error prone. Sometimes you don't see what's going on. So one of our recommended use cases is to leverage one of our partners, Escalate, to essentially build this collaboration between instances. It's very powerful, programmable. So now what we do at SPK is the customer can still do work in their own instance, file their tickets as they need to go, and then we selectively pull based on criteria what goes back into our instance. And we have all the goodness of automations and prioritizations and SLAs, and we can do our work, and then we can actually feed back to the customer. So that means your engineers have only one place to look, only one place to deal with the data. And that really has saved us a lot of time and reduced our errors. Next
Awesome.
slide.
Yeah, and to Carlos's point, I feel like this section of our webinar was really reducing context switching, right? Like finding ways to pass data from different systems, including Jira, to the user in the system that they're in. So, Carlos, now let's get into resource optimization and performance. There's a couple areas that I think we want to share in this section.
Absolutely. So Michael, as you know, JSM has a bunch of out-of-the-box tools to help you prioritize tasks, visualize workflows, and streamline your service delivery. This is to make sure that no team member is overwhelmed while others have bandwidth, that high priority tasks get the attention they deserve, and that the service delivery is consistent and efficient. So without clear visibility into tasks, really easy for bottlenecks to form or critical issues to go unnoticed. So JSM provides tools to track, analyze, and adjust the workflows in real time. As an example, one of my favorite ones of reports is the JSM workload report. So that gives you insight into your team's open tickets. I can visualize the tasks, that task distribution. I can show how tasks are spread across the team members. I can highlight the priority issues. And then underneath the hood, all this is based on filters and queries that you build. So for a specific ticket, I can check on, well, these are my open statuses or that are assigned to Joe. Oh, by the way, Joe's got too many of them, and I need to float that. And there's a way to manage that in terms of round robin or loading. So you can actually build that in automatically inside JSM, and you can visualize this. So there's a lot of dials that you can tweak to make sure that your team is balanced and all of the data that you need to manage is being visualized for your attention. And again, one more thing, not just IT, we do this across
Right.
HR, finance, all these other groups also get the goodness of these workload distribution reports. Next slide. So as I mentioned, you can take any Jira query and build a chart or a graph. And so out of the box, Atlassian has tons of widgets to help me do that. So you can build your own personal dashboard that you can share with people, or you can take a dashboard and make it a department or a higher level dashboard. These are dynamic dashboards, meaning it's real-time data. Every morning we have our stand-ups and we're going through projects. We're looking at our dashboards. We're seeing, what issues have come in, what tickets have come in, not only on the JSM side, but on the software development side, which is really important for Kanban and all that sort of thing. It's very powerful. And there is a ton of out of the box or through marketplace add-ons. Actually, there's too many, just overwhelmed. But EasyBI is another one that we recommend checking out. Has a bunch of really cool extensions, if you will. Next slide. And another cool SPK partner, AppsBIO from the marketplace. These extensions are really sweet for JSM activities. For instance, there's an incident manager merger. That's what they call it, where I can merge similar ITSM tickets with an auto merge rule. There's a templating tool. So if you need additional fields to come up in a template form, you can add that template. Here's another one that we like, which is this issue scheduler for recurring tasks. You can create and schedule repetitive tasks with subtasks in advance. You can set up an interval, daily, weekly, or whatever, make it private or public. And you can set up a definition using like cron format if you're familiar with that. And then another one here, custom additional flavors of custom fields. So JSM offers a bunch of custom fields, right? But what they have today is 2 layers of cascading. You can extend that with AppsBIO's extension. So you can have, I select this field, which will dole out these 4 options. Select one of those, it'll dole out more options. So you have a little bit finer spread, if you will, for getting that information. So another excellent marketplace app. Back to you, Michael.
So, Carlos, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the people that have implemented JSM or used these different features in different scenarios and what business outcomes they get. Now, obviously, these are specific to certain companies, but I want to talk through like some of the outcomes that people have gotten. Essentially, there was one company that had over 167,000 employees across 70 different countries, so really large organization. They replaced ServiceNow with JSM. And then prior to this, they had used Jira software for development, but they used ServiceNow for ITSM. And in their own words, they meant dealing with 2 systems, which were quite painful. That was the phrase that they had about using those 2 systems. And so in addition to cutting costs by 70% in the first year alone, they got up and running in just a few weeks. So it wasn't a heavy lift to get operational. And another company saw a decrease of 90% in the number of inbound email requests they had because they utilized the knowledge base to help customers self-serve. So that's how important that self-service component can be. And lastly, another client saw a 30% decrease in projects without adding additional staff. Or sorry, they they were able to see a 30% increase in projects without adding additional staff. Essentially, they're able to do more with the same amount of people. And all of this was because they were adding automations, the benefit of the self-service portal, and all to reduce manual processes and increase efficiency. Now, there's another, and this is a component of some of Atlassian's documentation, but they actually have comparisons of a traditional ITSM tool versus JSM. And so you can actually get this information from the Atlassian website. But I found that it was really important to highlight that this Foster study, which this comes from, they identified organizations can save $840,000 per year on licensing by switching to JSM, and that was based upon the types of customers that they identified for this study. And so that's a huge implementation and management savings when you talk about comparisons to other systems, which may be extremely robust in their features, but they may be hyper complex in their operations. So that's another kind of component of choosing JSM over a traditional or a legacy ITSM tool. So I want to wrap up what we've talked about today and get to some next steps. Um, Atlassian's approach to service management really is putting all these different tools and all these different departments together, including software development, IT operations, HR, marketing, finance, all the rest under one uniform platform, which really gives better platform for collaboration, and so that any team can respond to business changes and hopefully deliver great customer value and have a great employee experience at the same time. And JSM is at the very heart of what Atlassian looks at for its service management platform. And hopefully, you've seen some of the benefits of what that platform can do today. Um, I think what we covered was essentially the way that teamwork can be enhanced and better collaboration based upon using that unified platform. Hopefully, we've shown how you can streamline your operations and maximize the resources that you have, and we've given you some real world stats and outcomes on utilizing JSM, and hopefully that's given you some strategies to reduce your own ITSM complexity. I want to just give a quick minute or two on some of the things that SPK does for our customers. These are our four pillars in the service areas that we supply customers with services and support. Really, Atlassian fits into that software lifecycle management area, but the reality is utilizing a tool like JSM not only can be an IT service management benefit, which again fits in that section, but can also be a platform for all types of parts of your organization, as we mentioned, HR, finance, marketing, and more, and the business teams. And it really helps you ultimately cover a lot more ground than just it's a software development tool or an ITSM tool. But these are the four basic service areas that SPK has. And really, we align to our customers' goals. And usually what we find more often than not are these four areas. We call them SPK's ACEs because it actually spells ACEE. We help them accelerate their time to market for their product. We help reduce costs and making sure they're efficient in their spend. We obviously make sure we are very key to people's compliance needs and regulatory requirements. So we really spend a lot of time on the compliance concerns. And then we ultimately, not just for our own work, but we ultimately want our clients to have a really exceptional and quality product. So we are really focused on making sure that the end product is really good as well. So thanks for everybody's time today. Carlos, thank you for your time. I appreciate you being here. The folks that have registered for this webinar, you will receive a copy of this within 10 business days, sometimes within the next 5 business days, but usually within 10, I'll guarantee that. So that's the end of the presentation part of our webinar, and I'm going to turn it to you guys in the audience to see if you have any questions. You can throw questions in the chat, and whether you direct them to the host or the presenter, we'll make sure that we share amongst the team here that's that's logged in and will hopefully answer your questions. Okay, Carlos, we have one here. How hard is it to build the automations in JSM? Do you need coding skill?
I'd say for 80% of it is really easy. You don't need to be a developer. You create your sandbox. You start with your template, as I mentioned. You have your when, which is your trigger. When issue is created, do something. The conditions, if this issue is from this project, blah, 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 or a certain field is set, and then your do something, right? Which is change the status or create a subtask. Very intuitive, very easy to use. If you want to put on some developer extraness, you can get into webhooks and extensions and APIs. There you can take it, especially when you're going out of the system and you need to interact with other tools that need to be pulled back into your ecosystem. So there's probably the next level, which basically speaks to the fact that you can really extend this thing, right? But I'd say for 80% of the work you're going to do day in and day out, you don't need it.
Yeah.
You don't need to be a developer.
And I can speak with firsthand experience. I all the automations I've created were all the no code option that Carlos mentioned, and it was extremely easy, extremely.
I'll have to say though that he's a developer hiding as a sales guy.
No, 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 absolutely not. We got another one, Carlos. How do you prioritize which ITSM processes to simplify first?
Good question. Normally, I start with identifying your pain points, right? I kind of walk through my approach of, when we're remapping things and how we build them out and the flow. But at a higher level, identify your pain points. Um, I would analyze your ticket data, right? Where are there things that your own data is going to tell you are problems, right? Whether it's SLA issues or communication or something's going on. Talk to your agents, which are your developers, your agents who are servicing the tickets. Talk to your customers, get feedback of what they like or not don't like, right? I always like to get quick wins first, focus on business impact, and then once you have that, automate where possible, easy, low-hanging fruit, take away the pain, and then continuous improvement, review, and adjust. That's my workflow.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with the look at your ticket volume and try to do the biggest business value first, right? That's the wins that everybody wants to hear when you implement a new system. That's
Yep.
good stuff. We got another one here. How does AI help optimize Atlassian's tool?
So if AI is in every tool in the planet right now, and it's really, really exciting time to be working with it. So Atlassian has a couple of spaces. They have this part which is called Atlassian Intelligence, which is really the AI for human collaboration. You can create virtual teammates. That is that part of the equation. And on the other side of it is what they call smarts. Smarts is the data-driven algorithms and machine learning. So it's crunching all that stuff in the back. So underneath it, you're going to get better automation for your ticket handling, like categorization and routing, suggested responses, predictive help, personalized responses. All those sort of things that you're probably familiar with the world of AI is all being infused inside of Atlassian's tool set as well.
All right. Yeah, the Atlassian's made an investment in AI for sure. Along with, as you made the point, pretty much everybody else. So
Yep, yep.
every tool has AI in it now.
Right.
I don't see any more. I'll give everybody just another couple seconds if anybody has any other questions for Carlos, and then we'll wrap up if not. Alrighty, not seeing any other questions. I believe we'll call this the end of our webinar. Carlos, again, thank you for your time and your
Thank you.
insights here. Really appreciate it. And again, we'll have the recording out to you here in the next 10 business days. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.